The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook. Use promo code RTRS. Download their top-rated app. And brought to you by Body Bio. That's right, Body Bio. Get 20% off Elite and everything else on the site at bodybio.com with promo code RTRS20. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged, and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers have lost 4 straight, have lost their grip on first place, maybe even second place. We'll get Mike's panic level about all of it. Joel Embiid's games played, sort of mismanaged. Tobias Harris now dealing with a knee injury. Ben Simmons has a sort of secret illness, and listeners continue to pile on talking about Shake Milton's loser energy. A lot on the show today. Before we get going, a serious note. I'll just read this note we got from Mike. Our community means more to us than just the basketball and more than the silly jokes. And Mike sent a note. I don't know what is driving me to email you guys this time, but for some reason it feels like something I need to do for my own process. My mom has recently passed, and it got me to thinking about what she has left in me that has carried through my life and will continue to do so. The love of sports, and in particular the Sixers, is one of those things. Before I or my younger brother, who got me into your podcast, were even a thought, my parents would go on dates to the Spectrum to watch an older Doc or a younger Charles. They would sneak down to the more expensive seats because, much like the Sixers that inspired this podcast, they just weren't that good, and quality seating could be had at nosebleed prices if you played your cards right. After my parents had kids, the glory of Iverson and Tony Hill dawned upon us, and the sheer lunacy of fandom was still there. We were definitely a house that yelled at the television without regard to what the neighbors may hear on the other side. As the Sixers seeped into mediocrity once again in the following years, we were still very much watch the television in my house at least 82 days a year. As the process began to finally bear fruits, my mom was still a must-watch every night and asked me every day if the Sixers were playing. Just like every generation before seems to do at some point or another, she left out some letters in some players' names, EMBID, Corkmans, etc., but the love and passion was still there. The last game she got to watch was Joel dismantling the Nets. I think she enjoyed it as much as she could at that time, and I know deep down that she loved a crazy fan that she created. Someone that gets so dedicated to a team they have to email an absurd podcast about her upon her departure from this earth. That's something my mom left in me, and I'll always love her for it. Thanks for taking the time to read this, and even if it doesn't get read on the podcast, it felt the right to write it out anyway. If you have time, I would like the world to know that they're not the only crazy fans out there, and it is indeed genetic. Love you guys, TTP. So just wanted to send out our love to Mike and his family and his mom, who blessed upon him this curse that we all have, that we live and die with a team that mostly seems to disappoint us in the end. So love you, Mike. Love your family. Very, very sorry about your mom. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who will take some time out of his usual day spent trading crypto to do the pod. That is Mike Levin. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, big day for crypto. Big day for crypto. The thing I like most is that it also is terrible for the environment. What a fun treat. What a fun treat that is. Great. Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. At least it's super cool. Like, at least when you talk about it, you sound so cool. Holy shit.
Creating a thing that doesn't even have a physical presence being bad for the environment is actually a new tier. Yeah, it really is. really is impossible. I thought before we get into it, I thought you would enjoy this Apple Podcast review as it does quote you. We're at 2,882 5-star ratings. Leading intellectuals of our time. The quote is from Mike Levin. As you can look at Milwaukee, who has their own big three that is obviously a little bit smaller than Brooklyn as far as bigness goes. You simply cannot find this kind of hard-hitting analysis anywhere else. 5 out of 5. So,
absolutely never quote me back to myself. Should be illegal to do. To write it out, the things I say, I have no interest in it. Shouldn't be allowed.
Speaking of quotes, I didn't put it in the lead of the pod, but I do have some quotes from Sam Presti that have not appeared anywhere else. He gave a talk to some college on Zoom, and one of our listeners was on the talk and asked him about what the difference between what he did and what Sam Hinkie did and why he is not being punished. And we're not allowed to post the video, but I am allowed to read the quotes, so I have that a little bit later, speaking of quotes. So it was very funny to watch him. So Sixers have lost 4 in a row. Suns, Warriors, 2 to the Bucks. They're now second place in the Eastern Conference, a game behind the Nets, a game and a half in front of the Bucks. Boy, I don't even know what to take out of the Bucks games aside from it does seem insane that they would play Embiid in the first of the two when they knew Simmons wasn't going to play. Shake Milton looked pretty good in both games. I don't know. I can understand them losing games without their best players, but every team has had to play games without their best players, and this shit seems to happen at like the worst possible time. Is my
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough stretch. 4 in a row is bad no matter how you slice it. This is part of like the end of their sort of death march.
Mm-hmm.
They did really well on the front end, and maybe them playing that well on the front end allowed them to, I don't know, loosen the reins and also worry about people's, clocking in some scheduled rest type of things of just like it's going to be a loss anyway, so we're fine, kind of go with it. There does seem to be a little bit of a comfort around the team of just being like, whatever, like it's fine. This is their dog days of the regular season. There doesn't seem to be panic happening. My concern is the Joel thing, obviously, and I don't think it's always easy to sort of just like look at a schedule and talk to him and be like, okay, we are going to rest you for these days. This is your scheduled rest. And I think, especially with Embiid going after MVP, this was my concern when he came back from injury pretty quick, was that he would try to like push it when he's probably not going to get it anyway. And the most important thing is to get yourself healthy for the playoffs. And so it's a little bit of a bummer. I think the MVP ship has probably sailed, and especially because Denver is, I think they have about the same record. They have like about the same record. I mean, my concern level is relatively low. I mean, the first game they just got like Steph Curry'd to death, and that happens to people, and it was honestly delightful to watch. I used to get more frustrated watching Steph. Not that he's not excellent or I ever thought he was bad. It was just like I still feel it with Trae Young. I have just like a somebody punch the little guy complex, just like punch him in the fucking mouth. But I enjoyed this one. It feels fun after a few years off from that.
And he seems to have mastered what he does in a way that like age sort of helps you with. Yeah. Because he just seems to play at a speed that is completely controlled at all times, but he has such a control over what everyone else is doing. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. And then Phoenix is a good team, and they came close in that game, and there's some good signs to take. And then these Bucks games were just frustrating. It was tough to do like a road back-to-back was tough. But it's just a matter of like how much is Embiid going after MVP? How much are they like talking to him about it and making sure that like prioritizing? I know he wants to be around. It's just kind of been it's been mismanaged, and I understand how it got there. I don't think it's like everybody is like to blame and we need to have this big reckoning or whatever. It's we're 75-ish% the way through the season, and they have the easiest rest of the schedule in the league. So these losses ultimately might not matter if they finish strong, but it is a little bit frustrating that Embiid didn't get some more rest in this stretch. Like, if you're going to lose, at least don't have him play a road back-to-back. Like, it's just...
Well, now, from the rest perspective, now they've put themselves in a situation where, sure, they can get the number one seed still, and Milwaukee has a pretty easy schedule remaining as well. The Nets have a much more difficult schedule. But now, I think they have 3 back-to-backs left. Now, the idea of getting those guys rest in this final stretch seems more difficult, depending on what happens. So they put themselves in that situation. And I agree with you. It's very easy to blame. And, I think in the beginning we probably overrated Doc as a coach, but I'm never blame. It's pretty rare that I'm blaming the coach guy about anything. I don't even like talking about it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to blame him or blame the organization for which games they played him in. There's nobody. Joel is the ultimate decision maker in that.
Yeah.
You cannot rest a player who doesn't want to be rested. You can't. It's just not how it works. And Joel, and this is just me projecting and guessing, but I feel pretty sure in it that I think the criticisms of his durability bother him personally.
Yes.
And and MVP aside, I don't think he likes, whether it's going on the internet or watching TV or whatever it is, seeing that, he's not durable enough, and if you want to do this. So I think it could be about MVP, but it's also about he doesn't want that. Unfortunately for him, it feels like he could play 82 games for 5 years straight and it would still be a conversation about him. It's never going to go away, but I don't think he likes seeing it. And I think he likes seeing, well, the team needs me here. We're playing it back-to-back. I can do this, but it just ends up in the end not being the best for anybody. But there's nothing, I don't know that there's anything you can do about it other than him sort of continuing to mature into understanding what is best and what isn't. But all that said, holding on to number one seed, I believe, is not the be-all, end-all, but it's super fucking important. And now, so it's easy to say, well, rest these guys, but the difference between the Sixers having all 3 of their stars and not having all 3 of their stars is actually sort of massive, not like Brooklyn. Brooklyn has been able to survive with 2 of them and without Durant for 75% of the season. The Sixers just aren't that way. Mm-hmm. And now they're in a position where they're going to have to, if they're healthy enough to play, they're going to, and Harris also with obviously nursing a knee injury that we didn't totally know about. Now they're in a position where they're going to have to play a lot of those games,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think number one seed does matter. So you can avoid Brooklyn, Milwaukee in the second round. That'd be huge, letting those 2 teams beat up on each other while you get Atlanta or New York or a weaker Boston team, or just, I'm not going to say that Boston's weaker. Strike that from the record. I'm not counting 2. They've just wrecked us in 2 straight.
That.
In 2 out of 3 playoffs. I'm not going to assume anything. They need to beat Boston. I want Boston in the second round, not because I'm so confident in beating them, because I just need them to. I just physically need them to. Anyway,
need to exercise the demon
to have that than it is to face those 2 guys and let Brooklyn and Milwaukee beat up on each other in the second round. We've just never been. I mean, I think we've had this conversation partly before, but we've just never had a perfect, all easy breezy stretch of Sixers basketball going into the playoffs. It never happened.
No.
They had a 16-game win streak kind of out of nowhere on a season that they knew that they would have an easy end of year, but partly through that was Fultz's rookie year, and partly through that, Embiid breaks his face on Fultz's shoulder, and then they play the rest of the season with Simmons just flying around the court and Bellinelli and Ilyasova and all those guys just shooting everything. And so Embiid missed some of that Miami series and then came back with a mask they didn't like, blah, blah, blah. Next year, Embiid injury coming in, and then also has the shits in the Toronto series. And then the year after that, Ben, I don't remember. Did he get hurt his back before the playoffs or that first game? Ben.
No, I thought Ben missed the playoffs because of his knee.
I thought it was
in the bubble.
Wasn't?
No. He had back injury, but I'm relatively certain. I'll look it up, but I think he missed because he had like a knee.
The vibes of that season were so bad anyway; it was never going to happen. But it just feels like we've never gotten, aside from that 16-game winning streak, which was the most like don't appreciate. I think in the moment I was like, just lose, someone lose, please, because it's too good too fast. I feel like we've been paying for that since, and so I just want more than the 1 seed, I just really want them to be healthy and feeling good going into the regular season, into the playoffs. And so if they got what, 15 games left or 13 games left?
Whatever it is.
If they go like 10-3 and end up in the 2 or the 3 seed, fine. It's an easy schedule. They should do it. They could win all of them. I actually don't want them to. I think that winning all of them is a bad omen, if just sprinkling a loss here or there. But I would like to feel, okay, we have our ducks in a row. Even if Brooklyn's healthy, even if Milwaukee's healthy, we got to just be able to go to battle with the guys we got as healthy as they can be. And I think that's more important. I would like that just spiritually going into the playoffs.
Yeah, the other thing about being the 3 seed specifically is that not only would you have to play Brooklyn or Milwaukee, but you would not have home court in either of those matchups, which is not as much as it used to be, but still means something. The other, as far as like the other matchups, everything is bunched up so much. It's pretty hard to even know who you would play. Like you could wind up as the 1 seed and end up playing like Miami and Boston in the first 2 rounds, which would be, like they can beat both of those teams, but is a tough draw.
Not exactly a treat for a 1 seed for sure.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's much to take out of these Milwaukee games aside from like I always find it very interesting that Giannis doesn't cover Joel. I think that is. I wonder if they ever even try that in the playoffs. I feel like they just don't think he can handle it. They'd rather throw PJ Tucker on him and have
also
him
not
battle.
worth the fouls, maybe.
Yeah, probably. But it is cool. I think I feel cooler seeing like, all right, Giannis doesn't cover Joel, but Joel covers Giannis, and like he can do a relatively good job on him. But yeah, I mean it was interesting. I think informational for the Sixers to see Joel have such a hard time on Brook Lopez, because you just don't want him running out and contesting threes from a 7-foot center that can stretch the floor like that. And so I always like the Joel on Giannis matchup. I think it engages him in a real way on both ends. And I just don't want him away from the basket like that on Lopez or Bobby Portis, who has never missed a shot against us or whatever.
Yeah, I also think that we're in the stage of the year where we don't really see what the other teams are actually planning on doing against us in the playoffs. I'm actually pretty intrigued to see how teams are going to defend the Sixers in the playoffs, like whether every team is just going to double and triple the shit out of Joel and just not let him beat him and dare everybody else, or what ends up happening. I agree with you on the Giannis matchup too. It was nice to see Shake play pretty well. George Hill looked rusty. I gotta say though, Tobias Harris, I know he said his knee feels better, and I suppose you could say that without Ben and Joel, it makes life much more difficult on Tobias. And he's a good offensive player, but he's certainly not a superstar offensive player.
Yeah.
But he didn't look right to me. He doesn't look right?
He doesn't. I mean, it's hard to know what is like. He was just supernova earlier in the season, and if that's just cooled off, but he doesn't look right at all. And it would have been nice if they were going to lose by 40. It would have been nice to give him another couple days on that knee. It's just I mean, everybody's dealing with this. Every team is going through, like, you're racing through the season. You're cobbling together teams in COVID protocol and stuff. The Sixers had to play that. If they lose by one game, if they miss the 1 seed by 1 game, like, I'm going to be thinking about a lot of things. The Joel shot that should have counted. The game when they had 7 people and had to pretend Mike Scott was active so that they could. That was against Denver, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With the Tyrese Maxey 39-point game, and the NBA made him play it, and it's just like, then they started canceling games after that. But prior to that, it was you go head out there, and so it's been a weird season. Everybody can point to games that they just kind of gave away because of whether it's COVID or because of the compressed schedule or whatever. But everybody.
Well, we had a couple of games against Miami. We had a couple of games against Miami that we won. Sure. That, So, what was the other thing I had from? Oh, and the other thing that my proclamation from this, even though the Sixers did not have full roster, is that I no longer believe that the Bucks are fraudulent, and I do think they have a chance to win the East. And the last 2 years, I have believed that they are fraudulent for sure. But Drew Holiday is just, every time I watch him, he's better than I remember him being. And there were a couple of times where, first, here are the two things about Drew Holiday that I don't remember until I watch full games of him. One, he plays with a real calm on offense. Mm-hmm. He is very much in control, which is, he just seems to know where everybody's going to be. For a player who you weren't even sure for the first 5 years of his career whether he was actually a point guard or not, I think is pretty incredible. The other thing is how fucking big he is, in that when they put him down low against George Hill had no chance. And there were a couple of times where Drew was on Tobias, and there's no size advantage there, really. Like for Tobias, Tobias can't muscle him really because Drew's so strong and is so big. And I don't think they're frauds anymore. They look different on offense to me than they have prior. It definitely seems less Giannis-centric than it used to be.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes in the playoffs. But they're definitely a good team. And when they hit shots, they weren't hitting shots for most of that game, and then they obviously got incredibly hot in the third. But when they're hitting shots like that, the role players like Lopez and Portis and DiVincenzo and Connaughton and stuff, it becomes like, that's a good team. But if those guys start missing or go cold or get, lacking confidence in a way of it becomes the Giannis show, I think Milton should shoot way more. I think I agree that their best offense is when Giannis is not having to create everything, because they do have guys who can score in different ways, and Giannis can just be he can just clean it up. I feel like too often it becomes here, let him operate and do the one or two moves that he can do, which one of those moves is eliminated when you have Joel, because Joel's bigger than him and can hang. And so that's why I like that matchup. I did think it was funny that they started the game in a zone. It was such a such a way to be I don't know, fuck it, whatever.
It worked.
It worked for a little bit, yeah. And
yeah.
Without Embiid, a late scratch and all that stuff, it's tough. I mean, the stuff I took from the game is I want Seth to shoot more. He got really hot in the third quarter, cut it to 1 before they exploded. I think he's just good and helpful, and too often he disappears, and I want just more volume out of him, because him with the ball in his hands, if they can, set screens well for him, it just opens things up and is a way to get good offense without having to, Joel brutalize people in the post or consistent Tobias, post fadeaways if he's not feeling it.
Mike, I have been hearing from Ricky listeners, unsurprisingly, I'm not surprised, that they have tried Elite. I've heard from 3 or 4 so far who have tried Elite and are stuck on it and are not changing. Now have it every day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good news. I like when, I'm glad that the sponsors support the pod, but I love even more, I think it's important to both of us that the shit actually works and we like it. And Elite by Body Bio, it works. What it does is it keeps you hydrated properly. Being hydrated is not just about drinking water, and it's not just about not being thirsty. Being hydrated affects how much energy you have, overall how healthy you are, how well you sleep, whether you're going to cramp or not. I used to have this horrible cramping problem. And to be properly hydrated, you need more than just water. That's what electrolytes are, right? So you used to think that the only way you get electrolytes is by drinking these drinks. They come in 16-ounce bottles. They're purple or red or orange or green, and they have sugar in them or artificial flavors, all that kind of shit. You don't need that. All you need is Elite by Body Bio. It's got 3 things in it: sodium, potassium, magnesium. Nothing else. You take a cap of it in the morning, a cap in the evening. That's what I do. You can't overdose on it or anything. And you put it in your water. Can you imagine overdosing on magnesium?
He has too few cramps. Something's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be cramping more. I actually put it in. I don't drink a ton of water. I drink lots of Spindrift, so I put it in my Spindrift in the morning and at dinner. And my cramps went away. I used to have all these awful cramps in my calves and in my feet and in my hamstrings. I used to get them in my abdomen. They were fucking terrible because I wasn't hydrated right. Body Bio is an awesome company because they're local, South Jersey. They're family-owned, family-operated, and they have tons of different supplements. Elite is just the one we're talking about now. But the good thing about being a small company like that is that it doesn't take much for them. Science is changing every single day. It doesn't take much for them to shift and change things and learn things, which they're doing all the time. So I believe in Body Bio as a company. I believe in Elite as a product. What I want you to do is go to bodybio.com and use promo code RTRS20. Try Elite. Just try it. I'm telling you, try it. Even if you don't exercise all the time, being hydrated is super important to your health. If you've learned anything over the last 15 months, is that being healthy is important in a lot of different ways. So
Disagree.
Mike has gone the opposite way.
Yeah.
We've often said, Mike is a higher water content than the normal human at this point. 95% water. I think he's up there. So go to bodybio.com, use promo code RTRS20, and you get 20% off Elite. Just give it a try, or anything else at their website. Click around. Bodybio.com, promo code RTRS20. So before we move on, I want to get your need to panic 1 to 10 level on these 4 issues. 10 being total freak out, 1 being I don't even care.
Okay.
1 to 10, the injury issue. Why don't we put the combination of Tobias, Ben, Embiid, and we should throw Furk in there. Injury panic level 1 through 10.
I think always we don't know what Ben's is. They're calling it a flu, an illness, which is scary. It's been a while. They're saying it's not COVID, but that just is scary for it to be that long. And he said he's feeling better. Hopefully he'll play against OKC. But theoretically that can persist. Embiid, you're always worried. Let's give it compared to everybody else, I don't think it's any more. So I'll give it a 6.
Okay. Panic level 1 to 10. The Sixers end up the 2 seed.
As in, will it happen, or my panic if it happens?
All of it together.
A 5. I mean, I don't think it's not like if Brooklyn got the 1, it's not like that's a tough place to play. It's close matchup. It's not like.
I mean, there might be as many Sixers fans there as Brooklyn fans. To be honest with you, so nobody in New York gives a fuck about Brooklyn.
Super concerning for me. Milwaukee, I guess, would be a little bit more concerning. Just for having to be over there. But yeah, so I would say like a 5. I hope one of these concerning is Dwight getting another technical and suspended for a game, because that's the thing I've been tracking most. I'm really locked in on that.
Well, luckily it resets in the playoffs, so I do want him to get it out of his system.
Doc's right, that was a just reputation tech. They just give him. Yeah, they just call fouls on him. They call technical fouls on him. You see what I mean? Honestly, I'm not gonna. No one needs.
But
to
he
talk
earns
about
them.
He earns them a lot of the time, but also so do other guys. And I think the refs just sometimes get tee happy, and it's just we're missing our 2 best players and our best Korkmaz. So you don't need to be calling techs on the whole team, guys. They're missing calls and push offs. I just hate the ref show, man. I hate it, and they just do it. It just happens. Tony Brothers happens too much. But I do like Dwight getting suspended for a game for a technical foul. That would be good.
Yeah. How many techs do you think Dwight could get in a game if you didn't get kicked out after 2?
I think he could get there. I think he could get close to 5.
Yeah. Panic level 1 through 10. The Sixers end up the 3 seed.
If it happens, I'll say a 7.5, but I don't think it's going to happen, and it is still more important that they are healthy.
And then panic level 1 through 10, George Hill is likely going to get not a ton of time with the lineup that he will actually play with in the playoffs.
2. I think it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fine. I think I like George Hill. He's been, he's I don't want to say limited because that seems negative, but he's just he cuts the fat of like what doesn't need to happen, and he just kind of does it. Whether it's like he's very like straight line, kind of in both directions. And I do like how he's kind of come in and right away been like mentoring Maxey. He's talked about how they've gone up against him in games, and George Hill's like giving him pointers on stuff as they're attacking each other, and Maxey credits him for helping him this year. I just really like what Maxey's brought to the table the last couple of weeks. It's been like really one of the only bright spots.
He's improved in an obvious way.
Absolutely. Like the jumper improvement is significant. Like seeing him improve a jumper over the course of a season is really gives me hope for the rest of his game. Attacking with his right, he really can get there kind of whenever he wants. Doc has said like all the rookies have just the most amount of work ethic that he's ever coached, which is cool from a rookie class. It's been good, and I think I really would not be surprised if the offense gunks up in the playoffs. They start to look slow, as they really do look slow right now without Ben, because they have nobody really to push the tempo. I would not be surprised if like, hey, they're down 24-10 late in the first quarter. He just goes like, let's bring in Maxey. Let's see what he can if he can infuse any sort of juice into the lineup. That's what he does.
The playoff shirts are out. We've done playoff shirts for I think 4 years now.
Have we really?
Yeah. It started with the snake one. Remember, Process or Die. And then we had the Orlando tie-dye. And we had one more different color. Maybe it was the Rockets color one. We had 4. We've had 4. So this is the 4th. So two themed. One takes really 2 of your phrases. It's pink. Honestly, this is, I feel like, a really solid Mike shirt in a lot of ways. It is a dusty rose is the color with a baby blue. I'm a big baby blue fan. On the front has the Ricky logo with the best ability is ability underneath it. And then on the back, it only counts if we win.
That's the ethos right there.
Yeah, that is our playoff 2021 ethos. It only counts if we win. And the other one we're calling a playoff shirt, even though it doesn't have much to do with the playoffs, though I do think a Sixers Denver finals would cause a meltdown of a lot of proportions, is the band Denver shirt.
Yeah, that would just make you'd become an influencer. Like you'd be doing a lot of front-facing video. You'd have to probably like move to like an Airbnb or something because you'd get some threats. It would be.
I already did. Yeah. So when I first started this, that there shouldn't be home pro sports in Denver, a Denver CBS affiliate interviewed me via video to talk to me about it. And it's on the internet. About halfway through it, this part didn't make it. I said to the reporter who's interviewing me, I said, "Are we really doing this? What are we doing here? I'm kind of joking, right?" Anyway, so there's the Band Denver shirt, which is themed around the old Nuggets logo. It says Band Denver, and then underneath it says Thin Air, Not Fair. We've had several orders from Denver, which I think is funny as well. So you have to order them. It's a pre-order. If you order by May 5th, you get it by the time the Sixers start the playoffs.
Yeah. If I was a Nuggets fan, I would definitely. But that's a cool shirt to own as a Nuggets fan.
Yeah, I thought Tanner did a great job on it. I told Tanner the idea, and he came back and I thought crushed it. So the shirts are my new favorite is this Gildan Soft Style Buy Blend, 50% cotton one, which they both are. $21.99 for each, or if you get both of them, we have a lot of people order both. It's $39.99. Just go to our website, go to writesrickysanchez.com. The hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week, it's actually Shake Milton themed, is brought to you by Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. I know there's probably a lot of sneaker people listening to this. I'm not a sneaker person, but Kinetic gets these Nikes that literally don't go anywhere else. They do raffles for them and stuff. I've thought a million times about getting involved in the raffle, and then I realized how much stress the raffles cause Ben at Kinetics, and I don't. But KineticSkateboarding.com, 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. Okay, 2 YouTube comments and an email, all Shake Milton focused. The first one, I felt deja vu between Shake and Embiid. Clearly, Joel was pissed with Shake's stickiness over the past couple of games. All the best to you directly from Brazil. Am I the only Brazilian listener? From Roman, Shake has loser energy. And then an email from John. This question is for Spike because I can feel Mike's anger already. Is Shake Milton a loser? He complains to the refs nonstop, but worse is the bad body language. Everybody in the league complains, and Shake does get a bad whistle, but more than anybody else, Shake throws his arms up in disgust and is slow getting back. The lack of effort and constant complaining strikes me as loser behavior, not to mention the smoker's arms. Keep up the great work, and I hope Mike doesn't cancel me. Mike, a lot of comments about Shake's loser energy. Are you concerned?
I mean, I don't love I do think he gets a bad whistle, and I can see how that's frustrating, but I wouldn't mind someone pulling him aside and talking to him. That's like, this isn't helping. Like, it's just not. And when you don't get back on D afterwards, or when you just start to force it and all that stuff, it is detrimental. But I do think, like, some of the Shake, he's had a couple bad games, but he's also shooting. He's having the best month from three of his season. He's shooting 44% from three in April. So that is a bright spot, and I'm always going to love Shake. I think he's just really, really good, especially on this contract. It's one of the best contracts in the league. But yeah, he struggles sometimes, and I as much as this isn't my kind of, this is a you question. Loser energy is a Spike area. I don't accept it generally, but I can't fully throw it out because I do see a little bit what they're talking about.
Well, you do think Kyrie, as far as a basketball player, has loser energy though, right?
He's looked good this year, man. It's been a tough year for guys I don't like on the court.
Michael Porter Jr.
Has been good, but I do think he's going to suck in the playoffs. Brandon Ingram, I think still sucks. I think he's still empty stats bad team. I do think MPJ, if he was on a similar team, MPJ playing with Jokic really, masks a lot of his badness, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, I heard Zach Lowe say like that Michael Porter Jr. and I think Kevin Pelton said it as well has improved. I haven't watched enough of him this year, but has improved a lot on defense. It's hard for me to watch like guys like him on defense unless they're getting burned. I'll oftentimes don't even know what they're supposed to do in certain situations, so I don't know if they're bad. But the like 5 or so Nuggets games I've watched this year, he didn't appear to me to be as drastically bad as he was last year.
Sure,
Michael Porter Jr.
I think most of it is like falling asleep off ball. Like I remember, like Kuzma just killing him with back cuts in that Lakers series.
I asked MOC about the Shake loser energy thing, and he said that, and you would know better than I, but he mentioned like that SMU, which is where he went to school, there was like some loserness there as well in terms of the situation. So I don't like I like Shake a lot as a player. I believe in Shake Milton. Like when we get the question about him or Thibault or Maxey, I've always defaulted to I would take Shake because I like his skill set a lot. I am kind of bothered by you can complain a lot when you hit to a certain success threshold in the NBA. It gives you more room to complain. He has not hit that threshold, and he just doesn't look like he's a lot of times vibing. He is the player that is like, sort of like, seems to have on-court disagreements with other players on the Sixers more than any other Sixer. And it is, I'm not ready to call him loser, but I'm concerned about loser energy, I would say.
I think it's just a matter of like, you get a bad whistle. And maybe this is a thing you can't do in the season. You would have to look at it in the regular season with like your trainer or whatever. But like figure out how to get a better one. Like watch guys, watch Harden, watch guys type.
Yeah, what are you doing wrong?
They get those whistles. How can you better get it? If that's about like getting your body in front of him more, so then you can like take a dive afterwards, Kyle Lowry style, whatever. I mean, like figure it out. And so, yeah, there's some of that, but I generally think he's really helpful to the team, and they need him to be a spot-up shooter who can also create a little bit and help them out of the sort of mucky lineups that Doc likes to run.
A listener asked that I ask you this. I posted it on Twitter as a poll. If all NBA contracts were set to zero, all NBA contracts are voided, you're starting a team, this is your first signing, You have a 5-year, $185 million max contract to hand out to one of the following 4 players. You have to hand it out to one of the following 4. Now, I have my bet as to what you would say. Even your ranking, I believe I would know. But Ben Simmons, Julius Randle, Tobias Harris, Brandon Ingram. Who would you pick to get?
Well, I voted
contract?
in the Twitter poll,
Oh,
so I already did this. I would say Julius Randle's been excellent this year.
Really good.
Absolutely, really good. His jumper has improved massively, and it looks not fluky. Although
he's averaging 6 assists a game.
Yeah, I mean they don't have anybody else to do it, so I think that's
Yeah.
just sort of like they're just letting him have the keys. And with his jumper being as good as it is, and his physicality, and he's also slimmed down so he can get to the rim and stuff. He's a tough mismatch. I think the Sixers would play him well because Tobias and Simmons and some of Matisse can stay with him, and Danny a little bit. So he's not like a difficult matchup for us, but I can see he is for other teams. But it's just hard to say that he would be my pick because it's just there's not enough evidence of that over the years. Although it is a good story, and I am happy for him. Brandon Ingram, I'm not an Ingram guy.
Yeah.
If
I predicted he would rank 4th.
If you're starting a team, no, I would probably put Ingram over Tobias.
Okay.
Because he's younger and I think could still be growing, and I think there's a way to build a team out with him. I think Tobias is tough to start a team with him just because he's already as old as he is, and
he's only 28.
Yeah, but Ingram's what, 23?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna go Simmons. I think it's not that surprising that I would. I think you can as a starting tent pole piece to a team, you can build out from that and have a championship contender in that type of system more than you probably could if you start with any of those other guys. Would be my bet.
Mike, I have a couple of I guess you could call them jewelry related holidays coming up. 1, Mother's Day.
Yeah.
2, my wife's birthday, which is actually the same day as my father's birthday. How about that?
Weird.
Fucking weird.
So
yeah.
you married your father.
Yes. Well, God, holy smokes. Couldn't be more different in so many different ways. But this week, look, Mother's Day, you got a wife or a girlfriend or a, significant other, or even your mom you want to get jewelry for. Very important. LL Pavorsky Jewelers is where you want to go for any of those things, or birthday or anniversary, or if you're going to get engaged, LL Pavorsky Jewelers is where you want to go. The very first sponsor to come on board of the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast, and has been, I would say, reaping the benefits ever since.
Yeah. I mean, look, number 1, that's what you get. He's the guy who commented first on the article.
Yeah.
And he's reaping those benefits for years to come.
He's been saying first. That is so good. LL, but obviously was around long before us. 32 years, 33 years. I don't even fucking know anymore. He's been at 707 Walnut. I've mentioned this a bunch of times, but you go into a normal jewelry store and there is a salesperson just on your ass. You go into LL Pavorsky Jewelers and it's really just LL, usually one other person, maybe 2 there. And right now it's by appointment only. So it takes that care in you. He is about more than just fucking selling you some jewelry. He wants to talk to you about basketball, annoy the shit out of you, whatever you want. LL is there for. Treats our customers like gold, like diamonds, you could even say. God. If you need an engagement ring, whatever you need.
Gold works also.
What's that?
Gold works. Diamonds.
Yeah.
Treats our customers like rose gold. It could do anything.
Lee loves fucking rose gold. Let me tell you.
Come on.
He's a big rose gold fan. 215-627-2252 to make an appointment with Lee. Lee at llpavorsky.com. You can do it online if you don't want to go there in person, too. You can do the whole thing online. Or tweet at him at llpavorsky. Enjoy the Twitter. Scroll through the Twitter before you tweet at him, just to get a sense of what you're dealing with. And always supports our charities, Providence Animal Center and Coded by Kids. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
4 losses in a row. Hasn't taken a screenshot in a week.
Yeah, I had it. I said for you it would come down to Simmons or Randle. I thought that you would vote Simmons. I said there was no way you would pick Ingram, and I knew that you wouldn't pick Harris. So it's sort of. I think I I knew.
Look, when
that,
you talk,
so.
I talk about my preferences 2.5 hours a week for
Yes.
however long
Yeah.
we've done this.
I should know.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah. No. I'm not. I certainly don't. I'd say the same thing to my wife. I'm like, she was like, well, how do you know what movie I would pick? I was like, because I've been asking what movie you want to watch for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, So Sam Presti did a Zoom. By the way, I would take Randle. I'm sold. I know there isn't a ton of evidence, but it's one thing if you're doing what he's doing on a team that isn't winning, but like, I don't know, they're winning a good bit, the Knicks, and he plays hard, and he plays hard on defense, and I think you could pretty much play him with anybody. I don't think that there's the fact that he's shooting 42% or whatever from three, even if that's not real and it's more like 37% on 6 attempts, like that's still great. I think you can play him with anybody. So I would take Randle first. That would be my. Yeah, I'm sold.
The Knicks are a fun story, and they're trying very hard, and you can tell that this is a very Tibbs coach team, and there seems to be good chemistry among the players, and they have certainly good players in there. I think R.J. Barrett is already improving at a rate that I did not expect.
I thought he was.
His jumper specifically. I think there's a little bit of God, he puts up some clunkers sometimes because he's not a natural shooter. He doesn't have a natural touch, but he's been better than I thought he'd be. But I do wonder if they end up if they get Boston or Miami or whatever somehow in the first round, there's a good chance that they just get swept out of there.
Oh yeah.
I think because they've been trying so hard, and because they're counting on a lot of guys that there's not a lot of shooting in that lineup, like traditional that you're so scared of in a playoff matchup. They just try really hard, and when everybody else ratchets up the defensive intensity, could they? That even out a little bit. I think it could. I'm enjoying them. I really have nothing against the Knicks. I'm enjoying my Knicks fan friends having a nice time, and I love Nerlens, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's it's a team of tryhards in New York, which is fun. But let's see what happens in the playoffs.
Well, I don't think they're actually good, but I do think they have put the franchise in a position to now. You've always said the fact that they're not able to lure a superstar recently is disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
I think they've put themselves in position to lure a star at this point. So Sam Presti did a talk with I don't know what the school was, but a sort of Q&A on Zoom with a school. And a listener asked,
this is Sanctity Hour? Is that what we're the segment that we're jumping into?
Well, I'll give you the question that was asked of him. Now, I could say I give credit to the host because the host took the words of this and did not ask it exactly as it was asked. But the question was, in 2015, when the Sixers started off 1-21, league owners pressured Adam Silver to take action. He subsequently worked with owner Josh Harris to bring Jerry Colangelo into the ownership group. Hinkie was fired shortly thereafter. In recent years, the Thunder have adopted a process-like mentality. You've benched Al Horford and are sitting SGA indefinitely. Mm-hmm. You have 15 first-round picks between now and 2026, which is far more than Hinkie ever hoarded. If Hinkie's conduct warranted intervention, why doesn't yours? Yeah. So the question, which is a fair question, and if forgetting about Sam Presti, who just has to do his job, if you're the commissioner and you are letting these, you have to think about whether it's time for you to resign. So the host asked a question about Hinkie and tanking and what his thoughts on that are. And he used the phrase tanking. So you can hear it in Presti's answer and what the difference between what Presti is doing now and if the league should step in. The host did soften it. Here is Presti's response.
I'll read it because I want to feel it in the moment.
Okay.
I want to really put myself in Sam Presti's shoes.
Okay.
I'm good friends with Sam, so I have a lot of respect for him over the years. I knew him when he was in Houston. He's actually from Oklahoma, a very small town, so I look at that different. Look, I understand the terminology and the narrative around that. I don't know where that term came from. I think it came.
He's talking about the term tanking, by the way.
I think it came from boxing when someone intentionally tried to drop a match for gambling purposes or something. I think there's a pretty big difference between that and a team that has to rebuild itself through a system that everybody has to work within. So if there were ever a situation where players or coaches were intentionally doing things to affect the outcome of games, 100%. If a team or organization gets to a point on their timeline where they think it's in the best interest of the franchise and the value of the franchise to focus on the future instead of the present, And in order to do that, you invest in young players and the development of young players and draft picks so you can build a more future-facing team. I think that's business. I think sometimes we have to realize that, yes, it's entertainment, but what people don't want is a mediocre product. When someone's really good, someone's not really good. I'll use the Sixers as an example. They kicked our ass a couple weeks ago, and the series is now 21-4, so they have to beat us 16 more times to get to 500. But that's just the nature of cycles. The reality is Daryl's team in Philadelphia is going to be really good for a long time. The shoe's on the other foot. They're going to be beating us around for a little bit. That's sports. How do they get there, though? Through a strategic building process that's going to get them, 10 years of sustained success? And they were bad for 4? There were other teams that were bad during that time that aren't going to have a 10-year run of success. So you could argue that their strategy to rebuild through young players' draft choices and play the longer game might end up being the best business strategy as opposed to those that were resisting that. So I suppose it's all how you frame it. But by no means is anybody doing anything that will be equated with what that term is. I think it's just rebuilding. So
there was a bit of a space where somebody else jumped in and said something, and then Presti came in with this. I will say all Presti has done here is really just make our argument. But I love this because this is something I've never heard anybody else say, and this is what Presti came in and said at the end. Go ahead.
If a team trades all of their draft picks so they can win now, are they tanking in the future?
It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean that's what this is all everything we've always said. And I think I would like Presti to say it's bullshit, times have changed, and he should and Hinkie shouldn't have gotten edged out the way he was, and Adam Silver made a mistake he should apologize for it or resign or insist or implant the Colangelos onto another organization. But I think he just agrees with what Hinkie did. And this is not it's not a revolutionary thing anymore because people have done it since. And him saying, hey, yeah, those other teams that were bad then did a bad job and aren't good. And they should have done the thing that they did because for 4 bad years, it was really 3. Hinkie got 3. And it would have been probably even fewer if Joel hadn't gotten hurt twice. Yes, now there's years of sustained success on just a purely business end. And Spike, how much I love business.
You love business. You're a crypto guy.
I'm a big crypto guy, big businessman. And it just makes financial sense to do. We've talked about this before. The idea of the process as law school or medical school, where you're paying money to do something that will hurt you in the short term, but you're building a little portfolio of stuff. You're getting them together. You're learning and growing together. And then you're going to be successful for a long time. And you pay off those debts, which is what the Sixers are doing now. It was always bad faith, the people that were against it. They just pretended like they didn't understand. And people do that so often, and those people suck.
I couldn't agree more. We're on the same page on this one. And Dave Silver should, I think the best thing here is to resign. Now, the fair thing, if he honestly believed in what he did, is to sick the Colangelos on someone like Oklahoma City or Orlando. But
it doesn't have to be Colangelo. It could be like a Rod Thorne. You could take a Rod Thorne.
Yeah, or does Doug Collins have any sons?
They have to be associated with the Sixers in some way, I will say, because we just have just such a roster of failed older men that just
How
need
many DeLeos
jobs.
are there?
There's a bunch of them. There's so many.
Yeah, so many DeLeos. Couple of mailbag questions. Writes RickySanchez@gmail.com. Remember, send us basketball and non-basketball. This comes from Brian. We were supposed to do this the last podcast, and I forgot. I love it. I think I know the answer. I'm curious to your answer. Brian, who is the most likely candidate to get caught by an opposing ball handler and fall? It has to be Cork, right? Absolutely can see someone like Reggie Jackson catching him with a nasty crossover like AI on Antonio Daniels. What do you think?
Cork could wear it. He got those big-ass feet. I could see George Hill doing it.
That was my second choice.
He goes, he plays hard and goes for it. I obviously could see Danny doing it because, there's all that dump in his pants. It gets hard. But yeah, I think you'd probably still have to rate Korkmaz 1.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's close. I do think there is a possibility it could be. Here's my long shot. If it was plus 800, I would bet on Joel. There was a point in what article was I reading? I think it was from True Hoop. Maybe it was Kevin Pelton. I forget who wrote it, but just about, or maybe it was Thorpe. Maybe it was Coach Thorpe wrote about Embiid guarding, how Embiid big men don't want to get embarrassed on the perimeter. And they don't want to like play off the guy. They want to prove that they can do it. And how Steph sort of manipulated Embiid in that. I do think Embiid getting switched on to somebody like Harden would compete so hard that he could get tripped up.
Sure. I mean, he did it. He covered Drew in the perimeter and stuck with him really nicely in one of those games.
And non-basketball... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, good.
Non-basketball question. How do you pronounce the file extension GIF? Do you say it like starting the word gift or GIF like the peanut butter? I'm staunchly on the side of gift. Anyone on the other side is wrong and embarrasses themselves when they say GIF.
I say GIF. I don't care.
I say GIF as well. I think the creator said it's GIF, but I believe it's GIF. So,
what if the person who says, like, the creator of LOL is like, it's supposed to be LOL, and it's like, we're going to listen to that person? Like, who cares?
Yeah, come on. Just because you invented it doesn't mean you have all the answers on it. You know. From Matt, basketball question: the NBA is reset with every player going into free agency. There's still a team salary cap, but every individual player salary cap are gone. You are the GM for a team. What percent of your cap would you offer to Embiid? Who in the NBA would get the highest percentage of a team's salary? And what's the highest you could go on a single player and still have a realistic shot at winning the title?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I like that I don't think that there should be individual salary caps.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
agree.
That's an odd thing. And then you'd see teams being built in really different ways, which I think would be cool. Like would a team of 01 Sixers where it's Iverson and a bunch of guys, those type of things versus your 2015 Atlanta Hawks, who just kind of put it all together. Like what is the formula there? It'd be interesting. I think
it would also terrify big market teams because if like let's say the Thunder were okay not winning a title, let's say. Or lowering their chance of a title, but it's paying, let's say the cap is $110 million, paying $80 million a year to Joel Embiid, or LeBron James, it changes the game. It does. Keeping the cap, if you went hard cap, no individual limits, it would really fuck with big markets, I think.
I think that's a way to equalize. It'd be interesting. I think there'd be weirdness among the team. Like imagine if Joel is getting paid $80 million out of a $110 million cap and still missing like 19 games a season or whatever, that is a lot. If I'm those other players making like I got 1/10 of the rest, I'd be pretty pissed off. Like the next highest player makes like $7 million or whatever. Everyone looking at Joel be like, that's not. I don't know. It's a good indicator of like team success. Having other guys buy in. I mean, Joel would have to buy dinner every night. It would be like a lot of like, I'm so sorry. This is just the new. It'd be tough. I think it would be an awkward spot for them to be put in.
Yeah, the entire team is his offensive lineman that he's buying Rolexes for and fucking absolutely. All that stuff. I don't know what I would offer Embiid. I think his position and his health concerns would probably not have him top 8 or so. I think that like if you talk about smaller markets being able to create like a 45 win team out of a wing or a guard who's ball dominant, I don't know. I think LeBron still ends up going first because of what he means financially to a team and on the court. And I think Steph Curry would be top 3 or 4. I think Luka would probably be up at the top. Beyond that, I don't. It would be an interesting exercise.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. Like if you could get if someone would go up to like I don't know about 80%, but maybe like 66% on one guy. Mm-hmm. And so if you could say, hey, we could get, let's say LeBron for 2/3 of our cap, or we can go like we can essentially like trade down kind of thing, and get like DeMar DeRozan and I was going to say Kyle Lowry. Just start building the Raptors. I don't know why I'm doing that.
Yeah.
But we could get these kinds of like a bunch of B+ players, and it's like LeBron, and the next best player is like Kuzma, basically. That'd be weird. It'd be interesting to see how that would build together. I don't know. Speaking of rule changes, I just want to talk about this. There's not a good time to do it. I now deeply think that the Elam ending should exist in NBA.
Oh, in overtime, definitely.
I think regularly. I think there's just too many games. The sport of basketball is too good for it to the last 2 minutes to be slowed down to like a 20-minute foul timeout.
Yeah, it sucks.
Brigade. It's not good. It is not good for the game. It's not good for no one enjoys it. It's the like 5% of games that are both like really good games and also just like have a tremendous amount of flow to them that it doesn't stop and start over and over again. I think you'd also get that level of excitement in the last bucket moments between both teams, and I feel like it just like has to happen. Whether it has to be the whole fourth quarter, like say you could time the first 3 quarters as is, and then the fourth quarter is timed for the first like either 6 minutes or 8 minutes, and then the last 4 minutes or 6 minutes is like first to 12 over the.
If you're tied, I think that the problem with doing it in the normal gameplay in non-overtime is that the perfect thing about overtime is that you're starting 0-0. So if you say it's up to 11, then you're at a level playing field. I don't know how you do it. I'm sure somebody smarter than me could come up with it, but I don't know how you do it in the regular gameplay without it being like the All-Star game where they just sort of like blow through the first 3 quarters and then the fourth quarter actually counts. I guess you could say that happens now anyway.
Yeah.
But are you saying at the 6-minute mark, if it is
say it's the 6-minute mark and the score is 100-95?
Okay.
Then you would say, okay, 15 more points. So then the target score is 115. And so the team that scores 100 needs 15 points. The team that has 95 needs 20.
Got it. Okay.
I think it just becomes the basketball that we all play. Like the foul drawing situation is just like it's just really not good. And you can still get some of that. You could still play like hack-a-ben or whatever if you want to try to do it that way. There's still strategy choices, but I just think so much of it is you're watching. I think Brooklyn, rightfully so, fouls late a lot when they're up more than 3, and it's just like I think that's a smart strategic strategy. Strategic strategy is a good term I just coined. But it's not entertaining. It's not basketball. And I think like, when we had Daryl when Daryl had us on his fucking tweet situation.
It was MySpaces. So we had him on. Okay. Fuck him. Yeah.
But when that happened, and he was like, yeah, there's rules in the NBA that I don't think are good that we'll still exploit. And so I think this is a situation where it feels worse now over the last like couple years than it ever has. For some reason, maybe it's because there's like so many coaches wanting to like just getting any small percentile of a chance to affect something in a timeout or whatever it is. I don't know, but it needs to be better. I'm not a like change the game, better the game guy. Like I generally think it's all fine, but the ends of games it's just too many timeouts and foul situations, and I think they could just significantly improve it with this rule that they're starting to implement. I don't think it's a bad idea to start it in overtime. I think it's a cool way to like slow walk it in and be like, okay, 1st to 12, go for it. Mm-hmm. I think that's dope. But I do think it should happen in all games.
And make the court 2 feet bigger so you can make corner threes the same distance as regular threes.
I do think that. I mean, I wanted to keep talking to Daryl about that because that's super interesting. But like, baseball stadiums are cool because there's different shit. Like, I think it's there's fun variance in each time. And now, like, you really want a home court advantage. It's not just like you get your own PA announcer to say like, "Let's go Mavs" or something like that. It's way more fun to have like. And there's like a little hump in the middle of the court that you have to just like be aware of or something. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to be as crazy as that, but there should be like something. I don't know. There's windows in one place where there's some wind. You have to deal with that. Anything. I don't know. It's cool.
Well, you should have to commit. Yeah, but you shouldn't be able to change it every year based on your personnel, I don't think.
Yeah,
I
you have
think
to build a new
you should have to
arena.
commit to it.
Yeah. You have to build a
And non-basketball question, you have to live the rest of your life like a cartoon character in that you wear the same exact outfit every single day. Just like a cartoon character, you can wear specific outfits for specific activities, like when they go swimming or playing on a sports team, but your day-to-day outfit is exactly the same. However, everyone else in the world continues to dress like normal people, not cartoon characters. What do you choose as your cartoon character outfit?
I mean, I don't, especially over the last year plus, I haven't been dressing at all, really. It's just been, is what it is. Alyssa keeps looking at me as we're going out to like go pick up food because we're not eating anywhere yet. And she's like, really? We're still doing that. I was like, what are we doing? Who are we trying to convince? We're going to pick up food. We'll come back here. It's nothing. I would probably wear like if I'm a cartoon character, either jeans or joggers and a t-shirt. What are we doing? Let's be comfy.
So I've determined that the most wearable outfit for me in every situation I'm in that like I do have corporate meetings and fucking like, is I go dark jeans, t-shirt, hoodie, blazer. Boom.
Interesting.
Hoodie. We're an hour into the podcast at this point, so this is for the secrets for the real ones. You go hoodie, blazer. That's the thing, man. It's the fucking move. Hoodie and blazer. I'm telling you.
Oh,
hoodie and blazer.
Wait, like you wear a hoodie and then put a blazer over that, or
correct?
A combination. Correct. Okay, it's a little like tech CEO that I'm a little grossed out by. I could see how it's versatile. I don't disagree. I probably go like a dark jean or like a nice slack or something with like a jean jacket. Because I think a jean jacket, at least in my business, is like, yeah, that works as kind of any version of it, fancy-ish or chill. But I would wonder if people thought I was like inventing a business that like takes the blood of old ladies and turns it into, I don't know, fake money online or something. I don't know, whatever.
It is a little tech bro-y, but when you hit the level of like, when you have to be involved in corporate shit and you don't want to like wear a normal suit, you have to be able to. I understand what you're saying. I agree, and I say that sometimes. I'm like, ugh, I feel like a little tech bro-y, but I'd rather be tech bro-y than I look like I work on like Wall Street or something. I don't know. It's comfortable, and I need to be able to wear jeans. So, and then final note from Matt. I also want to say I went on Fly the Process to Chicago, Milwaukee, and ended up being right next to Embiid in the group picture. It was an amazing experience and one I'll never forget. So thanks for that. So that's cool. We have so many more. We'll just fucking hold them for next time. So we have good ones for next time. Boy, we game Monday. Is our back-to-back against the Hawks now? Is that next or?
It's the Thunder.
Oh,
first.
Right.
So let's get that
and
win
then two against the Hawks.
Keep getting that record closer to even for Sam Presti, and then two against the Hawks, and then
then the Spurs
Bulls. I mean, it is an easy-ish schedule. The Hawks are the best team record-wise that they have left. I think they have the Pacers Heat in the final week. That those teams will both be playing hard at that point, but they should win. They should start winning a bunch of games, and it would have been really nice if they won that Milwaukee game, just sort of stole it from them with like the bench guys. I'm starting to get like wisps of a little bit of last year vibes of like it's gonna be fine. But I feel okay. I think it's okay. I think it's gonna be okay. They're leaving too many guys open. I don't love either hard double or don't. But I think.
Can I ask you about one player that I saw in the Nets that they just signed to a 10-day, and I was like, whoa, this guy's good. Where the fuck was this guy? Mike James.
Yeah.
What the fuck? He's good.
Yeah, he's playing for CSKA Moscow. Okay. He's a good, little fast guard, like power guard. I think he was on Phoenix a couple years ago. Yeah, he was on Phoenix and New Orleans a couple years ago. He's good. He can score.
Yes.
He's got exactly the kind of player that you want the Sixers to have.
Yes.
That you think would be perfect. That he would probably never play here. He's also 30.
I don't know. I see the fucking Nets. They got all these fucking guys all of a sudden. You know,
Yeah.
you wake up one day and you're like, wait a minute. How do they win without their guys all the time? And they have all these guys. And they signed this guy to a 10-day. We're watching Anthony Tolliver, like, you know, put fucking oil in his joints just to move around. And this fucking guy, Mike James, is crossing people over and shooting corner threes off the dribble. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been it's been a little creaky lately, but I've loved seeing a little Rajon Tucker defensive replacement at the ends of quarters.
Sure.
I've been enjoying that myself.
I love Rajon Tucker for
he's
sure.
the man. He had a huge, like, ridiculous, like, double pump dunk in some garbage time the other day, and it's just like, if he can ever be useful, that would be very cool.
All right. There's my Mike James. I forgot to complain about that.
There you go.
We'll talk to you after the first Hawks game. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, you know, like this.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
Time for Plan B.